Coming up on this episode, COVID-19 test positive for TV's Rob. The Brandon Brown saga comes to an end. Bubba Wallace, best race car driver ever? The shish show that is CNN. Plus, your questions answered. All of that and more on this episode of TV's Rob is Unwoke.
Rob, wake up. No. Rob, wake up. No. TV's Rob is Unwoke. TV's Rob is Unwoke. He's unwoke.
Welcome to it. It is TV's Rob is Unwoke. I am your very unhumble host, TV's Rob. And before I get into the content of this episode, I would like to say thank you to everybody who reached out during the recent COVID battle in the TV's Rob household. COVID-19 tested positive for TV's Rob, and I kicked COVID's ass. Eventually. It was an uphill battle at first, but eventually I kicked COVID's ass. Nikki kicked COVID's ass. Thank you to everybody who reached out. The T's and P's, very appreciative of the love and support. Like I said, I'm not going to lie, it knocked me on my ass for a little bit, and I'm just now really feeling well enough to get back to doing the things that I enjoy doing outside of work, like this podcast. So I appreciate you coming along for the ride and joining me on this journey to purge the world of all of this wokeness and pure idiocy to restore balance and order. But of course, just like everybody says, life goes on, and the world kept spiraling out of control and burning down the entire time I was dealing with the COVID stuff and trying to get back into the swing of things. So I'm going to catch up on a couple of things that I had been talking about before the little hiatus because of COVID. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the dumpster fire that is CNN, because they have had a rough week. And honestly, it couldn't have happened to a better organization, right? I mean, we all know that CNN is the most trusted name in news. Right. Yeah, I can't say that and get all the way through it with a straight face. I just can't do it. But let me get started, and I'm going to pay off the Brandon Brown saga. If you've listened to the past couple of episodes of this podcast, you would know all about the Brandon Brown saga. Brandon Brown, the NASCAR driver who won at Talladega and was unfortunately the catalyst of the birth of the Let's Go Brandon movement, because Kelly Stavast and NBC Sports suck. I talked about the win at Talladega, the birth of the Let's Go Brandon thing, and of course the fallout afterwards that led to him not being able to find sponsorship. In the following episode, I talked about LGB Coin, the crypto meme coin, stepping up to serve as a full-time sponsor for Brandon in the 2022 NASCAR Xfinity Series season. But NASCAR, and being woke, insisting that political things can't be sponsors on cars, yet there was no written policy about that. But they just have discretionary decision-making powers. And they decided to use them and say, no. This crypto meme coin can't sponsor a car in our sport because we don't want to give the president a middle finger every time that car is on track. So they disallowed the sponsorship, leaving Brandon to wonder, well, what am I going to do now? Am I going to be able to race? Am I going to be able to make it to Daytona in February and start the 2022 season? His existing sponsors had pulled out because they didn't want to be part of the controversy. So the man was literally left with his hands in his pockets saying, oh crap, what am I going to do? Well, LGB Coin, they stepped up and they said, you know what? Yeah, NASCAR says we can't be on the car. But damn it, we believe in Brandon Brown, and damn it, we believe in what we're doing here. We're going to double down. And they have decided that, okay, we can't be on the car. We're going to sign sponsorship of the driver, you know, like a personal services and endorsement deal for 2 years. The deal includes personal participation in publicity events, videos, crypto conferences, racing-related events, and more, though it will not include car decals. So they can't be on the car, they can't be on the driver's suit, they can't publicly, at least on the track, be affiliated with Brandon. But Brandon and the company can still promote the ever-loving hell out of LGB Coin, and Brandon Brown gets the money to race. So congratulations, Brandon Brown and LGB Coin, figuring out a way to give the middle finger to NASCAR and their woke mantra, and figuring out a way to make sure that Brandon can still race. Brandon Brown commented, "I'm working to achieve my own American dream. I'm humbled and thankful that LGB Coins reaffirmed support for my professional journey and their commitment to maintain a patriotic message. LGB Coin has already demonstrated incredible potential, and I'm excited to help build this brand through the 22 season and beyond." LGB Coin said, "We're standing firm with Brandon. He is first and foremost a terrific race car driver and symbolizes everything that's great about this country. Brandon proved that with enough hard work, passion, and talent, anyone can be successful in America. We're also proud to be associated with his positive outlook, regardless of the challenges thrown his way. Brandon Brown is a rising star in motorsports. His impressive talent, passion, and achievements behind the wheel deserve to be rewarded and celebrated, and nothing will deter us from driving that message home. Good on LGB Coin for standing up and showing out for Brandon Brown. I'm still disappointed and pissed that one company that I kept calling on repeatedly to step up and support Brandon Brown still has not done it, despite selling Let's Go Brandon merchandise. Any company selling that merchandise should be cutting a check to Brandon Brown directly. But at least one company decided to take my advice and step up to the plate. Now, no telling what the car will actually look like. It'll probably be a plain color, or there'll be a sign on the hood that says your name here, your face here, whatever. I don't know what the car is going to look like, but at least Brandon's going to be on the track, and Brandon has a chance to compete with actual money from a company to sponsor him. And to the sponsors who left him because you didn't want to be part of the controversy, I really hope your business suffers. I'm not big on the whole cancel culture thing, but those companies really need to be canceled. Look, we didn't make the rules. We just play by them. We just have to live by them. So, sorry. If you left Brandon Brown because you didn't want to be part of the controversy, you guys don't deserve business anymore. Period. But of course, with every little bit of good news comes bad news. And of course, this news is completely agonizing. And it's going to be torturous for me. It's going to be torturous. The greatest race car driver in history has yet another documentary about him coming out. If you listen to episode 23 of this podcast, ESPN and Bubba Wallace signal the end of NASCAR, then you've heard me review the award-winning E60 documentary on Bubba and how most of it talked about race. Well, now we're getting more of it. But this time, it's going to be a multi-episode series produced by Netflix, debuting February 22nd, just a couple of days after the 2022 Daytona 500. And of course, Netflix has released a trailer and announced that the 6-episode series on Bubba Wallace, 6 episodes, 45 minutes apiece. Oh my God. It will be debuting 2 days after the Daytona 500 this year. Netflix announced last April that it was in production on the documentary series that follows Wallace in his first year with 23XI Racing. You know, the team co-owned by NASCAR driver Denny Hamlin and his heiress, Michael Jordan. And of course, the first year of 23XI Racing is a season that saw Wallace win at Talladega Superspeedway, thanks to rain. It's so funny. I point out that race was rain shortened because any time in the past, if a driver won and the race was rained out or is shortened because of weather, everybody would say, oh, yeah, well, they won because of rain or fuel mileage or the race was shortened. If it wasn't a full race, they always discredit it somehow. Not that one. Oh, no. Bubba Wallace won that race. Really? Because I seem to recall they got started and then, it had to be pushed back a day. And then, we decided to end it. Although it's possible they could have gotten that race restarted. I don't think they wanted to. In a statement from Netflix, Wallace said, "This is unlike any project I've ever participated in. It's a raw, emotional, and completely transparent account of the events that took place throughout the 2020 and 2021 NASCAR seasons. But I thought they were only covering the first year he was with 23XI. Why are we going back to 2020? Oh, right. Yes, I'm sorry. I forgot. We have to explore the Noose incident from another angle. We have to talk about the fake hate crime race war out at Talladega Superspeedway in the heart of the South. Oh, because that is so important." He said, "With me, what you see is what you get. You'll witness the peaks and valleys of the sport and see how one's actions off of the racetrack are just as important as the ones on it." One of the most compelling pieces of the series is the additional insight the viewers will gain by hearing from my peers, family, and some of my partners that played a role in this monumental journey. Join me as we break down barriers, confront controversy, and welcome a new fan base to the sport of NASCAR. Really? We have to talk about breaking down barriers? What barriers have you broken down, Bubba? None whatsoever. You're not the first black guy to win in NASCAR. You're the second. And even then, you're not even 100% black. You have a white father that paid for your racing career. Up until NASCAR, he was fronting the bill. But it's a monumental journey. Oh, it's so important. We have to just watch this, right? Well, look, I am not committing myself to watching this and reviewing the series. But if that is something that you would be interested in having me do, let me know and I will suffer through it so you don't have to. Just leave a comment at unwokepod.com. Hit me up on Twitter at TVsRobOfficial, or go to anchor.fm/TVsRobIsUnwoke, leave a message, and I will subject myself to the torture that's going to be this 6-episode series of Bubba Wallace, the greatest race car driver in NASCAR history. Oh, I can't wait for this agonizing piece of to go away. Oh. Alrighty, welcome back to it. This is TV's Rob is Unwoke, and guess what? CNN is on fire. It's a dumpster fire, and CNN is just riddled with controversy this week. And honestly, like I've said, it couldn't happen to a better organization. Now, what's been going on at CNN? Oh my goodness. So much has happened in such a short little amount of time. CNN President Jeff Zucker resigns over romantic relationship with Allison Gullist. That's right. Zucker is out after he didn't disclose a romantic relationship with another senior executive at the company. Zucker has helmed the cable network for 9 years, and he told colleagues in a memo that his relationship with CNN's executive vice president and chief marketing officer, Allison Gullist, came up during a probe into Chris Cuomo's alleged sexual misconduct. As part of the investigation into Chris Cuomo's tenure at CNN, I was asked about a consensual relationship with my closest colleague, someone I have worked with for more than 20 years, Zucker wrote in the memo, shared on Twitter by CNN's chief media correspondent Brian Stelter. I acknowledge the relationship evolved in recent years. I was required to disclose it when it began, but I didn't. I was wrong, and as a result, I am resigning today. Gullist, who previously worked as former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo's communications director, released a statement confirming the relationship, saying, "Jeff and I have been close friends and professional partners for over 20 years. Recently, our relationship changed during COVID. I regret that we didn't disclose it at the right time. I'm incredibly proud of my time at CNN and look forward to continuing the great work we do every day. Now, of course, rumors of Zucker and Gullist's affair have been circulating in the media world for at least 5 years, but the pair have repeatedly and vehemently denied that they were in a relationship when asked about it numerous times. Gullist denied the affair as recently as last month. Meanwhile, CNN insiders say they are stunned by Gullist's latest statement, including one who called her comments a bold-faced lie. Their relationship ended both of their marriages. Everybody knows that, the insider dished. Another insider said Chris Cuomo is the reason Zucker had to resign. Cuomo is suing CNN for a settlement, and his lawyers have argued that Zucker and Gullist's relationship is improper. They should not have been able to decide on the fate of his career, the source said. So he's married, has an affair with her. She's married, has an affair with him. Their marriages end. They get together, and they didn't disclose it. Now, when you're the president of a network and you start diddling one of your coworkers, especially one who's underneath you, that's probably improper, and you should probably say something. And of course, this is the network who just railed and jumped on the Roger Ailes story at Fox News because they thought that they had one that they could just bash and criticize and hammer and hammer and hammer. And guess what? Their hands ain't so clean now, are they?
This is CNN, the most trusted name in news.
Now, of course, the resignation of Jeff Zucker, the big story. That's the big news item, right? But of course, with anything like this, it starts spiraling and there's so many more layers that get added to it, right? Well, apparently, Gullist gets to keep her job, and female CNN staff members are furious that she still has that job. An insider says, why is she allowed to keep her job? CNN is supposed to be a transparent news network. How does she get away with lying about their affair for so long? Now, they both say, oh, our relationship changed during COVID. Everybody is saying that's a lie. And in fact, we apparently knew about this long ago, but nobody believed it because of where it came from. Katie Couric dished on Jeff Zucker and Alison Gullist's relationship in her tell-all memoir last fall, saying it struck staffers as super strange when the pair worked together at NBC more than a decade ago. The former Today Show star and former anchor of the CBS Evening News, where she tanked the ratings and was gone very quickly, and since then has been doing online stuff and trying to make herself relevant any which way. You know, she worked under Zucker when he helmed the NBC morning ratings juggernaut in the early 2000s, and observed in her memoir, Going There, that he and Gullist were joined at the hip. She noted that Zucker and Gullist not only worked together, but their families lived a floor away from each other in the same apartment building while they were both married to their spouses. Things got even weirder for Couric when she grew closer to Zucker's then-wife, Karen. She and her husband and kids had moved into the apartment right above Jeff and Karen's. Everyone who heard about their cozy arrangement thought it was super strange, Couric said. By that point, Karen had become a close friend, and it made me really uncomfortable. Couric added that Zucker insisted on hiring Gullist during his tenure at NBC, even though her position was long filled. At a certain point, Jeff made a huge push to bring on Alison Gullist at the Today Show, she wrote. I had to wonder why Jeff was angling so hard to bring Alison on board. They were joined at the hip. The problem was, we'd already hired a PR person for the show. There really wasn't a role for Alison. Couric writes that she resisted Zucker's attempts to get Gullist hired as a flack for the Today Show. She speculates that her snub of Gullist cost her an opportunity to land a gig at CNN, despite the fact that she endorsed Zucker to helm the network before he was named president. His first hire? Alison Gullist. Couric wrote of her former boss's stewardship of CNN. Oh, and I never did hear from him about that job. Katie Couric wrote about this in her book that obviously nobody read, and the people who did read it probably didn't believe her because what credibility does Katie Couric really have? But come to find out, the bitch was right. Now, of course, I love how she had to make these quotes and everything about her. Oh, it made me feel uncomfortable. Nobody cares about you. We want the affair meat. I mean, come on. We want to talk about that business going on. Now, CNN wasted no time replacing Zucker with 3 top CNN executives who will form an interim leadership team at the network. Michael Bass, Amy Entelis, and Ken Jotz are assuming Zucker's leadership responsibilities until Warner Media's pending merger with Discovery is complete. Bass is CNN US's Executive Vice President of Programming, and Entelis is CNN Worldwide's Executive Vice President for Talent and Content Development, while Ken serves as CNN US's Executive Vice President. What I really love about this here is that you replace one guy with 3 and you dump the old white guy for 2 old white guys and a white woman. I thought CNN was about representation and diversity. Why is there a lack of diversity at the head of CNN right now? Why did they not take the time to appoint Stacey Abrams or that one critical race theory chick or, even the leader of BLM? Why didn't you make one of them one of your co-leaders on this interim basis? Wonder why. Jeez. It's appalling. And CNN, I'm very disappointed in you for not appointing a black woman to head CNN. What's wrong with you? Now, I got to play this clip for you. This is from CNN the day that this happened. This is the announcement of Zucker resigning on CNN.
CNN President Jeff Zucker has just resigned after disclosing a consensual relationship with a colleague. Jeff has led CNN for the last 9 years.
Zucker's been a larger-than-life figure at this news organization for nearly a decade, a pioneering figure. And now his resignation is stunning this newsroom and the news industry. So this is a scenario where you have people who are working together for a long time. Then they start a personal relationship. And because they're both acknowledging they did not disclose it at the time, Zucker saying he should have disclosed it right away. That is why he says he's resigned effective immediately. Jeff Zucker has been the rock for this organization.
Jeff Zucker has been the rock of this organization. Brian Stelter immediately leaping to the defense of Jeff Zucker. Immediately jumping to his defense. Can't believe what's happening here. It's like Mini-Me defending Dr. Evil. I mean, honestly, take a look at Jeff Zucker and take a look at Brian Stelter and tell me that it's not Dr. Evil and Mini-Me. Okay? I'm just going to float that out there. So Stelter immediately comes to the defense of Jeff Zucker, singing his praises. Well, when in the statement that Zucker released, he mentions Chris Cuomo, Brian Stelter has to jump all over that.
The Chris Cuomo reference. Cuomo was fired in December, and he is not going out quietly. He was fired, and there were reports that he wasn't going to get paid the millions of dollars that were going to be on the remainder of his contract. So as a source said to me earlier today, he was trying to burn the place down. He was going to court trying to burn the place down and claiming that he had incriminating information about Zucker and Gullist. So if that's the case, if this is a domino effect that begins with Andrew Cuomo going down in the governor's office and then Chris Cuomo being fired from CNN and then Jeff Zucker losing his job at CNN, that is a remarkable domino effect, a chain of events. I think that is part of the story.
And of course, for Brian Stelter, that's not just part of the story. That is the story. Jeff Zucker's not to blame for this. Chris Cuomo is. Chris Cuomo, that son of a bitch, trying to burn down the network, while Stelter was the first one to jump to Zucker's defense. Everybody else has too. CNN is almost like a cult. Its leader got taken away, and now the minions are all coming out and saying, this is wrong. This is terrible. Why? Why is this happening to us? Allison Camerata offered a fierce defense of Jeff Zucker following his bombshell resignation from the helm of CNN, saying his surprise exit over his relationship with a subordinate felt wrong. I just think it's so regrettable how it happened. If what you're reporting is true, these are 2 consenting adults who are both executives. That they can't have a private relationship feels wrong. Jeff is a remarkable person and an incredible leader. He has this uncanny ability to make, I think, every one of us feel special and valuable in our own way, even though he is managing an international news organization of thousands of people. I just know he had this unique ability to make us feel special. I don't think that comes around all the time. And I think, again, it's an incredible loss. Jake Tapper, who occasionally surprises us with actual questions, has accused his network's corporate parent of throwing Jeff Zucker under the bus after the ousted news honcho refused to capitulate to Chris Cuomo's demand for a multi-million-dollar payout. Tapper asked Warner Media CEO Jason Kilar? Weird names. I mean, it doesn't look weird, but it's always a matter of how do you pronounce this? At a tense meeting hours after Zucker's resignation on Wednesday, Tapper asked Warner Media CEO Jason Kilar at a tense meeting inside CNN's Washington bureau about the perception that Zucker's refusal to pay Cuomo the remaining $18 million on his contract ultimately led to him losing his job. Jason, if you could address the perception that Chris Cuomo gets fired by CNN, Chris Cuomo hires a high-powered lawyer who has a scorched earth policy, who then makes it very clear to the world that unless Jeff gives Chris Cuomo his money, they're going to blow the place up. Stuff starts getting leaked to gossip websites about Jeff and Allison, and then weeks later, Jeff comes forward, discloses this, and resigns, not willingly. An outside observer might say, wow, it looks like Chris Cuomo succeeded. He threatened, Jeff said we don't negotiate with terrorists, and he blew the place up. How are we going to get past that perception that this is the bad guy winning? Well, he was told in response, when it comes to perception, all I can offer you, Jake, is every minute of every day, we've got what's on the screens. I believe that's what's going to define us going forward, far more than what's happened today and what you alluded to. Honestly, if I were the Warner Media CEO, I would have said, hey, Jake, when it comes to perception, all I can offer you is get the hell out of my building. You're fired. You want to question me like that? Get out. CNN star Caitlin Collins pressed harder, saying, I think the issue is that it's not a perception. What Jake just described is actually what happened here. Cuomo is a man scorned because he was fired for being held accountable, and Jeff is part of the result of this. And it sounds like you didn't consult any other executives on removing a critical part of the company. Then Dana Bash had to weigh in, questioning whether Zucker deserved to be fired over his affair. For a lot of us, the feeling is that for Jeff, the punishment didn't fit the crime. There's so many people who work here and got a second chance because that's what Jeff believed in. And it feels like he didn't get that chance. Already, the minions fall into line and they're all defending Zucker, even though it's plain as day Zucker violated company policy. Rules for thee and not for me seems to be the prevailing theme here. They can't stand that one of their own got taken away from them. And now some of them are shaking in their boots. Why? Because the calls to start firing other people have started. Now, if I were that CEO in that meeting with those guys, oh my goodness, I would have been telling all of them, you're fired. Get out. You're done here. We're not having this discussion, okay? The guy resigned. That's all there is to it. Move on. Get back to work. But this guy's obviously nicer than I am. But CNN is now facing calls to fire its, quote, chief media correspondent Brian Stelter for not exposing the ongoing romantic relationship between Zucker and Gullist. Stelter, 36, the network's top media reporter and host of its Reliable Sources Sunday show, either dropped the ball by not exposing the relationship or showed a stunning lack of awareness by not being privy to their romance, a CNN insider fumed to the Daily Mail. I just got to say, Brian Stelter being 36 years old, bro, that is what being a hateful, angry little douche will do to you. Sucker's like 3 years younger than me, and I look better than him. I look younger than him. I have more hair than him. Although I'm losing mine, at least I still have more than Brian Stelter. This little guy, this little mini me, oh, he is agonizing. But this unidentified source said that the network needs to step up and fire Brian Stelter. He is allegedly our top media reporter, yet he failed to report on the scoop that everyone in the office knew. And if he wants to say he didn't know, he is truly terrible at his job. Oh, that's awesome. The source went on to say, Brian Stelter should be calling his agent to start looking for another job. He has been Jeff Zucker's water boy for years, and no one believes he didn't know about all of this. Well, you know he knew about it. And this insider, final line from them, which I absolutely love and I totally agree with. The insider accused Stelter, a former New York Times media reporter as well, of being hypocritical for not exposing Zucker and Gullis' relationship while often criticizing other competing networks. He's been sitting on his moral high horse doing Jeff's bidding and ripping Fox and every other media outlet that Jeff tells him to while his ratings crash and burn. Where was he on the biggest story at his own network after chastising everyone else? Well, from the clip I played you earlier, we all know exactly where he was. He was carrying the water, and he was blaming Chris Cuomo because Jeff Zucker obviously can't be held accountable. And at the same time, Stelter is too busy bitching, moaning, and complaining that people don't believe CNN because they'd rather believe Joe Rogan and the disinformation he spreads all over Spotify.
Not all opinions are created equal. You think about major newsrooms like CNN that have health departments and desks and operations that work hard on verified information on COVID-19. And then you have talk show stars like Joe Rogan who just wing it, who make it up as they go along. And because figures like Rogan are trusted by people that don't trust real newsrooms, we have a problem that's much bigger than Spotify, much bigger than any single platform.
That in itself is a whole other powder keg of stuff to talk about. Get to it later. I will just say that anybody going after Joe Rogan is full of it, especially Brian Stelter. I mean, it's not like we don't have examples of why we shouldn't trust CNN, right? There's a lot more to come, but first I want to talk about protein bars for a moment. We've all seen them and most likely have tried a few in our goals of eating healthier and losing weight. But what's the biggest problem with all of them? Well, basically, they all taste like crap. They're hard to chew, taste awful, and don't provide any type of satisfaction. I'm happy to say that there is one protein bar out there that isn't anything like the others, and that is Built Bar. Built Bar is healthier than your favorite protein bar, if you have one. Bars are low calorie, low sugar, high protein, high fiber, great for keto diet, lose or maintain weight while indulging in a delicious treat that tastes like a candy bar. Each bar contains only 110 to 160 calories, 16 to 20 grams of protein, and 3 to 5 net carbs. Enjoy the healthiest thing that you'll do today. When you eat a Built Bar, you feel better about yourself because healthy has never been this delicious. Built Bar is better tasting than your favorite candy bar. Candy bars have not evolved in over 100 years. Now they have with Built Bar. There's 18 different flavors to choose from, including cookies and cream, strawberry, peanut butter, and mint brownie. Go to Built.com and use the promo code TVsRob at checkout to get 10% off your next order. Use promo code TVsRob for 10% off at Built.com.
Nissan Woke.
Alrighty, so a while back, Keith Malinak, host of the At the Mic podcast, put out a tweet saying, hey, ask me questions. And I decided to jump on and I said, you know what? That's an interesting thing. Let's do a ask me anything type of segment. And some of you sent some questions in and I said I would answer them. Some of them I answered on Twitter. Some of them that would just be too long to answer. Decided I would do that here. So let's kick it off. At B to Bodine says, I don't think I've seen you comment on the clash taking place at the LA Coliseum. What are your thoughts on that? I think it's going to be a joke, and I guess I'm a little pissed at how NASCAR is doing their best to take it away from its roots. Well, B to Bodine, here is my answer. Here are my thoughts. The Clash taking place in LA is really something I can live without, because if you really wanted to race on that type of a track, just go to Bowman Gray Stadium, which would be exactly within the roots of NASCAR. Update the facility a little bit, do what you were doing, invest the money that you invested to build a temporary track out in LA, but do it there. And guess what? You'd still have a weekly series racing there all the time. So I think that would have been a better fit. But I have to say, I'm very curious to see how this goes. In business, if you're not trying to attract new customers, eventually you're going to wither on the vine and die. Apparently, NASCAR has seen a lot of people who have never been to a race buying tickets for this event. There's been a lot of interest generated outside of the NASCAR media, outside of the NASCAR world about this event. I really hope it goes well. I'm curious to see how it goes. I'm really curious to see how the next gen car debuts and premieres on this short little track. Now, do I think that they should continue doing that? Probably not. I know that there's an arrangement where they can keep it there through 2024, but I'm hesitant to go beyond this weekend's race. I will say that there's already been talk about, hey, if this goes well, we can do it at other places like AT&T Stadium in Arlington, where the Dallas Cowboys play, or the Superdome, where the Saints play. Don't be getting too far ahead of yourselves. Let's watch the event. Let's see how it works out. Let's see if it's good. Does it put on good racing? And then go from there. But I'm afraid that they're going to get too far ahead of their skis here, and it's just going to come crashing down. I'm hoping for the best, but I'm pretty much expecting the worst. NASCAR getting away from its roots, unless you really want the sport to go back to just being a southern regional sport, yeah, they're going to get away from their roots some. But really, their roots are just outlawish, hot, badass speed, hot, badass cars going fast. As long as they could keep that going and stay away from the whole woke thing, which they're still just pushing it. I don't know. NASCAR, they really piss me off. And I really just, like I said, I hope for the best. I'm just so conflicted on it, honestly. All right. Next comment comes from Abnormal18. What's a good story you could share that makes you laugh and involves the Blaze crew? Well, I've got to say that at the behest of my counsel, I have been told to not say anything. Do not tell stories involving the Blaze crew, mainly because the statute of limitations have not expired and run out yet, and to protect those who may not be so innocent, I've been advised to plead the fifth on that. At Jeffy JFR, which shout out to him for letting me be on Chewing the Fat for a few minutes. Even though he says, I wouldn't leave. Well, actually, I would have if I had known that you wanted to record your podcast, your silly little Chewing the Fat. But either way, thank you for letting me be on the show with you for a few minutes. Been a long time coming. But anyways, he asks, what did you use to clear up that skin condition? I used the souls of the dead. That's what I did. I used the souls of the dead to clear up the skin condition. Whatever skin condition that was. At Tyler Produces, the Tyler Morgan, who's a frequent contributor to the show. How many parsecs could a parsec parse if a parsec could parse parsecs? Answer, 12. Jeffy again. What do you usually eat for breakfast? Usually, nothing. I eat no, like Kamala Harris. As Head Pat had said, I eat no like Kamala Harris for breakfast. Every day. Yeah, no. Usually, I don't eat breakfast per se. I'll usually have like a cheese croissant and a Dr. Pepper, as well as a vitamin water, as well as a Rowdy energy drink, as well as one of those naked smoothies. Mainly liquid in the mornings because I'm not usually hungry when I first wake up. Now, after I get done at the Blaze and I go home to work on my other stuff, I'll eat whatever. I'm not really picky. Just no coconut. Otherwise, I'll be dead, TV's Rob. At Freedom Unicorn 1 asks, how did you get started in the biz? What led you to the Blaze? This is a very good question. And I could go into the whole spiel, but I think I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. Cliff Notes version, very simple. When I was a kid growing up, always loved the radio. Grew up listening to the radio. I loved listening to the jocks, loved the presentation, even listened to talk radio. And I said, you know what? I want to do that when I grow up. Got a chance in high school to intern at a local radio station in Dallas. That led to my first job in radio, working at ESPN locally here. Went to auto races, went to Cowboys games, Mavs games, Stars games, Rangers games, all for free, being able to conduct some interviews or engineer live broadcasts. I was there for a few years, went to a news talk station, and then before you knew it, like news talk became the thing for me because doing what I do as a tech guy, you always need somebody behind the scenes who knows how to push buttons and run things. And if things go wrong, you need somebody who's able to fix those things on the fly. And I showed that I had a really good knack for doing that. Now, I didn't get into the biz hoping to be a producer or be a TV director or anything like that. I got into it to be a jock at a music station, and I never got that opportunity. The music stations I interviewed at, they wanted me to babysit automation or run things behind the scenes. Nobody wanted to give me a microphone. Even my current employers don't want to give me a microphone. So I figured the only way to really get a microphone is to go get my own and do something like this. So that's what I'm doing. As far as what led me to The Blaze, I had been producing a national radio show for a few years, and I had heard that The Blaze had moved their radio operations from the Northeast to here in Dallas, and they were looking for people, and I applied. That was as simple as that. And of course, the whole reason I applied to The Blaze was, hey, they have a TV side as well. I can get into TV. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to learn TV stuff just to dip my toes in to see if it's something I'd want to do. And it's worked out so far. I've actually been there for 5 years now. That's a very long time. And just to share a story. Now, Abner Normal, this is a story involving a Blaze crew. So, and in fact, it involves Jeffy, but this is one that I can tell. As some of you may recall, Jeffy had a weekend show, had a Saturday show. Well, for a short time, I was actually working on that show. And I had my very first interaction with Jeffy, and we're talking, and all of a sudden he stops and he says, I know who you are. You're the mole. You're the mole. I'm thinking, what are you talking about, mole? He said, you're the guy that Michael Savage likes to yell at on the radio. You're here to sabotage us, aren't you? And I just kind of had to look at him and say, no, dude, if I were going to sabotage a show, it'd be Savages, not anything here. So Jeffy knew who I was just thanks to listening to the show I was producing and realized, hey, you're the guy who Michael Savage likes to yell at. One last one real quick before we get moving on with the rest of the show. Texas Spy Girl asks, I've always wondered, do you guys know how large the Pathead audience is? Roughly how many listeners tune in on average? Yes, we do have data to show how big the audience is to some degree and how many listeners tune in on average. A lot of that is outside of my purview, outside of my knowledge, though. I'm not given any type of information on any of that. But I will say that the Pathead audience is vast and large. It is probably the largest audience at the Blaze, but nobody wants to acknowledge it, okay? Seriously, just think about that. Because there's so many other shows at the Blaze. But there's only one, Pat Gray Unleashed, which is, in my opinion, the best show there. Followed behind by Chewing the Fat, of course. But there you go. There are some answers to your questions. I hope that I answered them to your liking. If you have other questions you'd like to ask, feel free to hit me up on Twitter at TV's Rob Official, or you can hit me up on the website, unwokepod.com, or at anchor.fm/TV's Rob is Unwoke. You can leave a message, and we'll do more of these because I actually like the interaction aspect. So keep them coming. I'll answer any questions you've got at any time. Well, that is going to do it for this edition of TV's Rob is Unwoke with me, TV's Rob. I appreciate you all coming along and giving the show a listen. If you would, please go to Apple Podcasts and leave a 5-star rating and a review saying how wonderful and amazing the show is. It's okay if you lie. I won't tell anyone. Also, the show is available on YouTube now. You can go to youtube.com and you can search TV's Rob is Unwoke, or I'm going to leave a link in the episode description. You can click that and go there as well. The official website is up and running. You can check that out at unwokepod.com. There you can sign up for updates and reach out to me directly. Also, don't forget, Built Bar is giving listeners 10% off at built.com with promo code TVsRob. If you want to get in on the action and make your mark on the show and pretty much make the show your own, go to anchor.fm/TVsRob is Unwoke and leave a voice message. Also, if you want to come on the show and talk about something that's really pissing you off, send me a message on Twitter at TVsRobOfficial or drop by the website unwokepod.com. Special thanks to Nikki. You can follow her on Twitter at DFW Radio Girly, and Ryoga, the special derpy cat, the executive producer, who you can see what he's up to on Twitter as well, at Cat Ryoga. I'm TV's Rob. This is TV's Rob is Unwoke. I'll catch you next time.